It's time for Making a Living with Maggie Mistel, one of the nation's best-known career coaches. Ready to soul search, research, and job search into your ideal career? Career Happy Hour starts now.
Hi, and welcome to Making a Living with Maggie. I'm your career coach, here to help you learn something new and have fun in your life. That's right, enjoy your career and have it fit your talents and your abilities and be a place that you look forward to on Mondays. Imagine that. What have I been seeing and up to? Well, I was watching YouTube recently and a video about the entire year, from two astrologers. It was kind of a year in review looking forward. And I found it interesting, not only because of the stars, but because of the statements one of them used. She said that we activate our lives with what we tell ourselves on a regular basis. So why not use statements to create what we want out of life? And her statements were good ones. I want to share them here. First one was, I'm always in the right place at the right time. So say it with me and activate it. I'm always in the right place at the right time. There we go. We just activated that in our lives. Next, she said, things are always working out for me. Let's say that one together. Things are always working out for me. Great. Another activation done. I've also learned another way to activate our desires is to say thank you for what we want, as if it's already ours. Here's an example from a client. Thank you for my new job where I inspire, write, plan events, and connect joy and creativity for children and animals in a way that supports me, giving me enough to pay my living expenses and live comfortably. I know that's a long one. You can say it shorter. You could say something else like, thank you for my new streams of income, consistently increasing to higher levels. Or even simply, thank you for my dream job. You might want to try this approach, making activations and statements for yourself and thank yous for the next month. And see how those statements support you in having the career and life and world, can make them bigger, right? The kind of world you want to live in. Use them for that too. Thank you for a peaceful, happy world where we live in harmony and are healthy, happy, and free. Sounds good to me, right? Of course, you can tell I made that one up on the fly, but that's what's beautiful about these statements, right? You can activate things that matter to you, are meaningful, and you can focus on creating what you'd like to see. So that's what we're talking about, is creating the kind of lives we want. And these activation statements are a method. Another method that we're going to learn today on this show is hearing from someone who's helped me manifest my dreams. Laura Allen, who's also known as the Pitch Girl, was helpful to me many years ago when we were both living full-time in New York. And I was just launching this fledgling coaching practice. And her 15-second pitch seminar showed me a powerful way to communicate my work and my value, both clearly and succinctly. And we're going to get a refresher today on how to pitch ourselves, whether we're in a job, maybe we want a promotion or a different position, whether we're working for ourselves and we want to start that new business, or we've been in business and want to amp things up or make a shift. It's great to, whatever you're doing, always have your elevator pitch ready, because opportunities can be happening at any point. So stay tuned for that right here on Making a Living with Maggie. Also coming up, you'll hear a career tip, plus a fun way to spend your summer if you're looking to travel, and a PSA, public service announcement, that I'm including to highlight organizations making an impact. I've heard from many of my clients that they want to have an impact, and there are organizations already doing that. I'm excited to get into the content today, so stay tuned for more right here on Making a Living with Maggie. Who wants to travel to Spain this summer? Who wants to discover history, appreciate architecture, learn a new culture, and experience delicious cuisine? I do. How about pairing those experiences with wine in two of the best wine regions of Spain? Yes, see, sign me up. Join a 6-day, 5-night luxurious wine journey curated to be the perfect wine-focused holiday. Perfect if you want to get an immersion in Spanish wine and gastronomy. Perfect if you want to combine wine history with heritage. And perfect if you want to experience luxury travel. Perfecto. Included in this is a visit to multiple wineries in Rioja and Ribera de Duero. This tour will take you through the history and art of Spain, including museums, cathedrals, and historic sites that will impress and elevate your appreciation of Spanish viticulture. Led by local bilingual guides with extensive knowledge of Spanish wine and all the destinations on the itinerary, this Stay Luxurious journey leaves from and returns to Madrid. Departure dates are in June. Find out more and download the full itinerary at stayluxurious.com. Laura Allen, aka the Pitch Girl, knows how to create a great pitch. As proof, she once closed a $5.5 million deal from a cold call. She also knows how to make a great first impression. She once sent a 3-foot-tall steel pyramid to Star Wars director George Lucas as part of a client pitch. That pitch yielded approximately $60 million in revenues for her client. Laura is the founder of thepitchgirl.com and 15secondpitch.com. She has 20 plus years of experience in advertising, online marketing, and sales. She's been a guest speaker for NYU, Columbia, and Pace University. She's also been featured in Adweek, the Financial Times, and Crain's New York Business, among others. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh. Well, I can't wait to tap into all that experience. And
yes.
Because pitching is something people still get very nervous about.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So thanks for being here. So let's start off with this idea of pitching ourselves. And is it something that we still have to do? Does AI now do it for us? You know, how does it show up in this modern world with online interviewing, you know, even just pitching businesses? I mean, it's really interesting how much things have changed, but how much do we need to know about pitching ourselves these days?
I think that we need to be aware of AI. And I've had some of my clients ask me, hey, can I just have, put my pitches into the AI machine and have them come out? And it's interesting because I love science fiction, but you run into a problem. Because at the end of the day, someone needs to show up for the interview. Someone needs to show up for the Zoom call. Someone needs to show up. And
you mean AI can't just show up for you?
I mean, there was a movie with Bruce Willis a long time ago where Surrogates, I think it was called, and they would send these better versions of themselves out there to do whatever it was that they needed to do. I think we need to know about AI, but I think there's a disconnect because we've been talking about authenticity and being real for the past couple of years. So if you're going to have that AI pitch, and I did this with my bio and I loved it. I was like, oh, this is so Minority Report. This is so cool. But then at the end of the day, I need to deliver something that I'm pitching, just like everybody else. So the AI pitch could be better. It could be a starting point. It could be better than the blank page. But at the end of the day, is it too good? Is it too shiny? Like the AI headshots, they look really cool. But
that's
then
not what the person looks like.
You show up.
Right.
It's like, who's that?
Right.
So I think there's a place. Yeah, there's a place for AI, but I think for the most part, the opportunities that come to us, we have the least time to prepare. So it's going to be what you can say off the cuff, or you're going to get pitched in by a friend or a client or a colleague. So it's not going to be that magical, perfectly polished AI pitch. It's going to be you.
So great point. Yeah,
that's the challenge with the AI pitch.
Great point. So tell us your success story. How did having your pitch help you close that $5.5 million deal?
It's interesting because it's amazing what you can do when you have no choice. Because I worked at an ad agency, it was kind of like Mad Men, even though it was in the 90s. Crazy place, and you always had to be closing. You always had to show your value. So my dad, this is an old school pitch, but it still applies. My dad found an article in the newspaper about a company that did CD-ROMs and workbooks for college kids. That was their, and he said, oh, I thought you would find this interesting. And it was during the holidays, happened to be home over Christmas. And, I like to work. So I called this company up on a Sunday. I left a voicemail message. So my message had to be short. And I was flying back to New York on Monday. So my pitch was all about, I work at a small ad agency in New York City. I like what you're doing. I can show up at 9 a.m. Let me know if you're interested. They liked it because they're in Syracuse. They said, oh, this is kind of cool that this woman would bother to come from an agency in the city. They like that idea. And one of the things I learned from that pitch was the guy said to me, he said, is this your company? I said, no. He said, because you pitch it like it's your company. I said, okay. And I've had that, a couple people have said that to me over the years. And that's kind of made me think I want to do my own thing. But having that short pitch, it's really the courage of your convictions, because I had a very short amount of time to get that pitch together and go in there. And, when the guy called me back, it's like, oh, I'll give you 15 minutes at 9 a.m. on Monday. Okay. Being constrained can help you with your pitch.
Wow. Yeah, it's a good thing, right?
You have no choice. I'm either going to do it or I'm not going to do it. And on the drive there, I'm thinking, why did I get myself into this?
You're like, wow, here we go. Okay.
This is scary. I don't want to do this.
Right. Right. And yet, feel the fear and do it anyway. And it turns into a really awesome deal. That's fantastic. So what goes into making for a great pitch, Laura? What are the components?
So I like to talk about the 4 key elements of the 15-second pitch. And I've been talking about this for over 20 years. And they can be tweaked a little bit. Find out what works for you. But we want to keep it very, very short. And that's the challenge. So this is the outline. This is the secret sauce, which is no longer secret. And people do.
Secret doesn't mean it's easy, though. That's why I'm so glad you're here.
That's part of it. That's part of it, because I'll get pushback. People will email me after this. They'll say, I don't like step 3 and I don't like step 4. Okay. But we're going to do it anyway. So step number 1 is who you are. Simply your name. Hey, I'm Laura Allen. Hey, that should be pretty easy. Step number 2 is what you do. It's like, oh, we're getting a little more specific. So I'm a financial advisor. I work in real estate, whatever it is. Be specific and make it something that most people can understand. Because when you say I'm a management consultant, people will shake their head. Oh, yeah. They may not know what that means, though, but they're not going to tell you.
Right.
And step number 3 is
terms,
where,
I guess, right?
Yeah. Keep it, a dentist. I know what that is. Step number 3 is why you are the best at what you do. And people get in an uproar and they say, I don't want to say I'm the best. I don't want to come off as cocky or arrogant. And you don't have to put anyone else down, because sometimes I see that in pitches. These people do this and we do this instead. That's a way to differentiate. You don't have to necessarily do that. It's just what makes you different from everybody else. But if I say what makes you different, they're going to downplay it a little bit. It's that step number 3 that gets you through the door.
Right.
It's that magical thing.
Right.
Right. And step number 4 is the call to action, which a lot of people miss. So you're pitching at that networking event, you're pitching online, you're meeting new people at the backyard barbecue. How do they get in touch with you? Do you have a business card that you can give to them? Do you have a website? I see people with, the little piece of paper that they're going to write on. There has to be a way to contact you and make it easy and make it memorable so they know this is the person I met at the backyard barbecue, so they can connect it, make it easy for them. Nobody wants to call you up and make a mistake. So those are the 4 key steps. They should be 1 sentence each, which is also the hard part.
Wow. That's the brevity, right?
People like to put a lot of different details in their pitch, but the listener is not that good usually at discerning all those different elements. So they'll reject the pitch. Oh, I do yoga and I dog walk and I clean apartments and, but what I really want to do is I really want to get into real estate investing. And the person's like,
Yeah, that's true. I've talked to people like that. You're like, wait, what am I supposed to focus on?
And you can do all of those different things. But I suggest you focus on one thing at a time, but you're going to have a pitch for every niche is what I call it, because otherwise nobody can remember that many things. So I'd rather be the person that does one thing that people can remember, because it's all about people referring you. Those are the best deals still, online, in person, through email, is someone that's going to pitch me into an opportunity. I'd much rather have that than have the opportunity directly.
That's a great point, right? It's nice coming from someone else, for sure.
It's the best.
Okay, so people can basically draft their pitch and then maybe make it more concise, right? So like write down your thoughts on those 4 questions. Is that what makes the great first impression then? Is it the pitch itself? But obviously you know how to make great first impressions. So what goes into that component? Again, people are having less and less time, to if they're interviewing, sometimes they're not even another person on the other side of the video, right? They're just asked to answer a bunch of questions to a camera, as the first screen of the interview. So I think it's harder for people sometimes to make that first impression if they're not used to being in front of a camera, for one, or if they're just not interested in that, or that makes them scared. So, what do you think makes a great first impression? Is it having this pitch and having the confidence, and what else goes into it?
I think it's choosing what you want to focus on, because when I used to go on interviews, I knew if they asked me, which is usually the first question out of the gate, so tell me about yourself, either I was going to lose the opportunity, which I did a lot of times until I got better, or I was going to somehow wing it and get my foot through the next door. But it was a complete, who knew which one it was going to be, and it was very challenging. So until I got clarity on some of the stories I was going to tell, it was very, very difficult for me. So I think talking to a screen, or you don't know who you're talking to, at least have the courage of your convictions and talk about things that you can deliver. Because the biggest mistake I see in job seekers and entrepreneurs too is they will say, well, I can do anything. I can solve all these different problems. I can help anybody with their challenges. And maybe that's true, probably not. Maybe that's true, but I don't know what bucket to put you in. I don't know if you're a virtual assistant. I don't know if you're a project manager. I don't know how to refer you. So you're not going to get any referrals from that pitch, because people don't want to send you to the wrong opportunity. So it's kind of ironic. They want to make it broader because they want more opportunities, and they end up getting no opportunities, or something that's completely out of left field. Have you ever thought about being a greeter at Walmart? Yeah, I thought about it. I don't want to do that.
It's so interesting. Yeah, people do that when they're, in between jobs, and like, well, I'm looking for an opportunity and I can do anything, or here's my resume, send it out to people. And it's not specific enough to know how to help them. And I think that is a really good point. And you said also knowing what stories to share. Right.
Yes.
So how do you help people, or how did you even, let's use your example, right? You sent this 3-foot tall pyramid, right, to George Lucas. Like, how'd you come up with a pyramid, and why a pyramid? And, how do you assess your audience in that way and come up with something good?
Yeah. Come up with a really, really creative way to get George Lucas's attention. Only the most creative guy on the planet. And again, the time constraint actually helped me and the ad agency I was pitching with, because the client got the opportunity very late. So the client got the opportunity to pitch maybe 3 weeks before it was due. And they paced the floor for about a week. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? They brought us in. The pyramid idea came from the logo of the company was a pyramid. So that's not that hard to come up with that particular piece. But how do you construct it? We ended up having about 3 or 4 days to construct it, because you also have to ship it out to California from New York. You're like, okay. So you have to decide. And in that particular instance, I was young. I was in my 20s. I'm pitching at the client's workspace, and there's an actual Darth Vader at the end of the conference room table. It's all men in $15,000 custom suits, and the people on my team pitching, and the president of the company. And I kept looking up, and I kept thinking, if that Darth Vader moves, I'm gonna jump out of my skin. So at one point, I said, well, Lord Vader, as I was, and I got a little chuckle. I got a slight chuckle because I'm sure I wasn't the first person to be intimidated by Lord Vader, there in the pitch. But then the president of the company was talking about how he was going to start building this pyramid. This is when I knew I'm either going to get fired or I'm going to get promoted. You're going to take a risk. And I needed this job. I couldn't really get fired. I couldn't afford it. And I looked at him and I said, Jeff, you do not have time to build the pyramid yourself. We're going to build the pyramid. And, dead silence around the table. And he said, you're right. And that was that. So the idea of the pyramid was cool. The execution of the pyramid in a short amount of time was crucial. And what we also did is we put an R2D2 recorder as a little tape recorder with R2D2, and it gave our pitch in the little R2D2 unit because we figured, George Lucas is going to open up this pyramid and he's going to see R2D2. And he actually called the client and said it was one of the most creative pitches that he's seen.
Wow.
We didn't have a choice. We had a choice, but we wanted the deal.
Well, you didn't play it safe. That was your choice. You're like, do we play it safe or do we really go for it? And it sounds like that's another component to a really great pitch.
Yes. I think that being scrappy, and I've talked about this in my career too, the perfect pitch, you have to be perfect. You have to have the perfect hair. I wanted to get my hair color done before this. I'm like, you know what? It's more important to be scrappy, and particularly now because things are changing, and I don't care who you are or what you're doing. People need people who can deliver. I talked about project managers. So if you can deliver something, painting the walls in my apartment building, if you can deliver consistently, you can get work. That's where I'm at. But
so you're saying the pitch is a way to deliver, show that you could deliver, because you're literally delivering the pitch.
You have to be able to deliver what you say you're going to deliver, though. That's the thing.
I say, okay, in the pitch itself. Gotcha. So take a risk, go out on a limb, but not so far that you can't deliver on that.
That's something I see with web designers, with different people. It's feast or famine. So they take on a lot of business. It gets more complicated. Then they can't deliver. And that becomes a huge problem. So I think it's better to be a little bit lean when you need to say no to certain projects or refer them to other people. Always have other people that you can refer business to, because that's useful. But I do see a lot of frustration across the board with people that don't deliver, because when the economy starts tanking, we see that people get desperate and they're like, I need to get out there and pitch. And I think they have the best of intentions, but sometimes they just can't deliver, and that will set you back further than, being a month off on the rent, I think.
Oh, that's a really good point. Okay. Really good point. Be able to deliver. So are there other words of advice you have for people looking to improve their marketing and sales, whether it is for their own business or if they're an employee? Does everybody need to know how to pitch? I mean, I guess it would help even in any career path, right? To be able to know how to pitch yourself, right? For promotion, for opportunities, right? This kind of pitch could be even used for something like that, internal.
I think there's always competition, even if it's internal, because I think about real estate. And, there are real estate agents, right? A ton of competition. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they will pitch, I can help anybody with any kind of, building, any kind of, that's not usually the best idea, because I think about a woman I worked with 20 years ago. She was all about Park Avenue. Part of her pitch was, I've lived on Park Avenue for 20 years. I focus exclusively on selling Park Avenue real estate. How the heck are you going to unhinge her from that Park Avenue pitch? She would always close those deals. You're probably not going to be a real estate agent in your first year selling Park Avenue properties. It's going to be really hard. So people referred business to her, and she doesn't want to deal with first-time buyers. She doesn't want to deal with somebody in Brooklyn. So she would refer those opportunities. It worked out. So I think you have to have the pitch even internally. And if you are in real estate, first-time buyers, that's really, really hard. It's a lot of work. Nobody wants to deal with it. But if you want to build a loyal clientele over time, that's a niche that you could get into. First-time buyers. How do they get the mortgage? Where should they look? How do you come up with, $1.2 million for a studio in the East Village? That's a little hard. Mm-hmm. It's a great niche for somebody that wants to put in the work. But there could be a million other niches within real estate.
Right. So it's about that authenticity back to who you are, what you'll deliver on. And I see that because it's about people doing what my hashtag, one of them is, do what you love, right? Because it's like, you're going to deliver on the stuff you want to be doing. Right. It's a lot harder to deliver on the stuff you don't want to be doing anyway.
If I don't care about Williamsburg, if I think Williamsburg is not a cool place, it's going to be harder for me to pitch Williamsburg than somebody who lives out there and moved out there and they know when the L train's not running or wherever it is, wherever your focus is. People can see that. Back to that authenticity that we talk about. People know when there's something not quite right. The real estate agent on Park Avenue is not pitching Williamsburg, not in a million years.
Yeah, it helps to know where your niche is and get that kind of clarity. And I think writing your pitch, I've done your workshops before. That's one of my questions too, is where can people find out more to do their pitch? What do you suggest? Do they could listen here and do this today? Do you work with people? Or do you, have a website, or are you planning to do, any seminars online or off? Like, where can people really get and dig into their pitches? What do you suggest?
Well, I think starting off the 4 key steps that I talked about today, I make my clients do it. They don't like doing it. I don't like pitching either. That's how I got into this, because I didn't like it.
It seems like you do. It seems like you like
it. It's necessary. It's necessary because I saw a lot of good people losing opportunities because they weren't able to pitch themselves or promote themselves. So that's
still a problem. That has not changed.
That's how I got interested in it. It's a real advantage. So work on those 4 key steps. You can find me at thepitchgirl.com. That's my website. And I think it doesn't have to be, we talked about these kind of big pitches, George Lucas. It doesn't have to be the crazy big pitch.
Not everybody has to build a 3-foot tall pyramid.
Not everybody has to do that. I hear pitches all the time. I had one woman come to a workshop and she said, I'm a freelance writer who's never missed a deadline. Boom. People lined up.
Well, thank you, Laura, for making us ready today to pitch ourselves, our businesses, internally, externally, being the best we can be. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Now that we've heard from Laura, it's time for your career tip. This one is about focusing on the skills you want to utilize, not just the skills you have. So maybe you've already gone to school, received a degree or technical training, you spent time and money to develop your skills. It doesn't seem sensible to go back and do it all over again to make a career change. But you feel trapped and unhappy in your career, maybe even miserable? Okay, you think, I'll just get a new job. Good idea. But a new job doing the same thing isn't that new at all. In fact, it doesn't sound like the long-term path to happiness, does it? When I work with my clients, I don't just focus on the skills they have, but also on the skills they actually want to utilize in their ideal careers. For some, those skills may be areas in which they need to develop or learn. That's okay, as first we need to understand what those skills are. Here are key ways you can use to identify the skills you most enjoy using. First, stop trying to be something you're not. In the book, The One Thing You Need to Know, Marcus Buckingham explains that people are wired differently. He sees 3 types: leaders, managers, and top performers. All utilize different skills in their careers. For leaders, a skill often utilized is envisioning the future. For managers, it's about bringing about the best in each employee. And for top performers, a key skill is getting and staying in the zone. No one of these is better than the other. For success, you need to be honest with yourself about which skills at work you prefer to use: the skills of a leader, a manager, or a top performer. Next, assess your skills. When I work with clients, I help them assess skills across main categories that apply no matter which field or industry they work in. Things such as managing work, communicating and influencing, learning and adapting, serving clients or customers, managing others, leadership, or technical skills. Then I have them list 2 to 3 specific skills under each category. For example, under communicating and influencing, you might list creating presentations, teaching courses, or negotiating with vendors. When I teach My Managing Your Career course in corporations, one of the skills I choose to leverage, I do an additional exercise to help participants understand the skills they most enjoy using. I take out a pad of Post-it notes and instruct each person to write a 1-word descriptor for each of the other participants. It must be a skill they associate with that person, their most dominant ability. I then collect and organize the traits by name and read off each person's list of skills. When team leaders receive the word lead, that's not a surprise. But many participants often receive repetitive traits not necessarily required by their job descriptions. In one course, a participant received collaborator 4 of 9 times. Working in an operational role where traditionally collaboration was not core, he chose to utilize this skill anyway, and it set him apart. In his case, it won him a company-wide recognition award. So, embrace all your skills, even when not required. Okay, now you've listed your skills, the ones you want to utilize in your ideal career. Listen in next month when we'll focus on establishing your definition of work-life balance. To hear more tips like this, check out previous episodes of Making a Living with Maggie and purchase my book, Are You Ready to Love Your Job? Make a Great Living Through Soul Search, Research, and Job Search. Available at MaggieMistel.com and on Amazon, where it ranked as a #1 new release in Job Search. Before I wrap up today's show, I want to share a public service announcement for an organization doing very important work. I often hear from my clients that they want to make an impact. Well, this PSA is for a group doing just that. Guardian Group's mission is to prevent and disrupt the sex trafficking of women and children in the United States. Their vision is that every child in the U.S. lives free from sex trafficking, and they are seeing this vision come to life as more victims are offered a path to freedom. The Guardian Group team utilizes their 2 most efficient and proven strategies to achieve this mission. Through their own expertise, and with the help of a crowdsourced volunteer force, they identify women and minors who are victims of domestic sex trafficking nationwide. Their no-cost support to local, state, and federal law enforcement results in increased recovery of these victims. Together, they are harnessing the power of many to find the vulnerable. What role can you play in stopping sex trafficking? Sex trafficking will be stopped with a community-wide response. Regardless of your place in life, you can make an impact on this crime. You can volunteer, donate, and raise your voice, as I am, in support of organizations like the Guardian Group. The counter-trafficking training the Guardian Group provides free to law enforcement across the nation exists to equip officers with the tools to proactively stop this crime and free those trafficked. Together, we can make a difference. Learn more and start making an impact today at guardiangroup.org. I'm sorry to say that we've run out of time. Thanks for joining again. I'll be back next month. In the meantime, follow me on social media or sign up for my newsletter at MaggieMistel.com. Here's a quote to keep you inspired in honor of Leap Year from Robert Holden. One new perception, one fresh thought, one act of surrender, one change of heart, one leap of faith can change your life forever. Thanks for listening. I'm Maggie Mistel, your career coach, inspiring you to make a great living.
To understand more about how Maggie can help with your individual career needs and goals, contact her at MaggieMistel.com or Facebook.com/Making a Living with Maggie Mistel. Together, we can all make a great living. Great living.